Bro, I told you about Lila Rose. She's full of caca, man. I've been trying to tell you, please watch these so-called trad girls on YouTube trying to tell men what to do. I was trying to warn you when she was trying to grill Justin Waller because he was open about the situation where he wants multiple women, whatever. And he that's what he wants, and he's honest about it. And she was basically trying to make it a moral issue, and people didn't pick up on it. It's basically what women like Lila Rose, what they want to do is still have control of the man's balls, right? So they, particularly the Chad, they want the Chad, and they're still just not over it that men are just biologically wired different than women. It's not. It has nothing to do with the moral issue. If a man decides to be monogamous, that's literally his decision. That's just his personal decision. Whatever path that man takes is just a matter of his decision. Whether it be, it's not even matter of right and wrong. It's just his decision whether or not he wants to be monogamous or not, and he shouldn't be shamed for whatever decision that he takes. And there are guys like Justin Waller, they can do that. Like if you ever saw the Drake music video where he had like 36 girls lined up to marry him, yeah, Drake could literally pull that if he wanted to. He can do that, even though that wouldn't be smart, but he can do that. He definitely can do that because there's just certain levels, when it comes to men in certain status, certain positions, certain positions of power. So that's what it is. And people couldn't detect the passive aggressive slide remarks, the slide comments. And this is why Justin Waller snapped back at her, even though I don't even think people were saying that he was yelling at her. I was like, are you serious? Well, maybe because I grew up playing sports, and trust me, first of all, these hoes are not getting yelled at. Let's stop that nonsense. You guys are just simping in the comments for Lila because you think she's on your side, but she's not. I'm telling you. I'm telling you, she's not on your side. Lila Rose is the average, is kind of how I look at the average feminist. She doesn't think she is, but she is. That's what I've been trying to tell you, simps. But here, we're going to have Lila Rose. She's going to state basically, she thinks this is the #1 reason for divorce, right? Or she thinks this is the top reason for divorce. And it's the typical conservative answer. Let's listen.
There's a statistic I saw recently about divorce, and it was that 56% of divorces list pornography use of one of the partners as one of the top reasons. So like to Ruslan's point, there's a lot of harm that porn does to families, to marriages, and then the top site that trafficked victims are at, according to the data, is porn show sites, meaning you're going to find a lot of trafficking victims involved in pornography. Just looking at the net large impact on society, you see a lot of that negative impact that pornography has.
First of all, she's lying. that's the one thing also men need to start doing. You got to start calling out people for being a liar, and because it's so interesting. I'll bring up certain things and people, where's your source? And nobody's gonna ask her where's first of all, I find it interesting, like these so-called trad cons, and highlight the con. Oh man, the trad con artists. That's what we're gonna call these. The trad con artists. What these trad con artists do, they like to virtue signal like a muff. They attack the liberals for being virtue signalers, but they do the same thing. It's just in a different way. So they go on podcasts like Whatever Podcast, which is basically full of OnlyFans models, and other porn stars, other like strippers and whatnot, and try to basically make themselves look good over 304s, like paid 304s. And it's literally, it's like kicking at low hanging fruit. So it's useless to be talking about conservative values to strippers and porn stars, because that's what they are. And it doesn't make you a better person, in my opinion, because we already know what they are. We know what they are. If she got an OnlyFans account, she's only for the streets. We already know what that is. And it's interesting, they like to return to this podcast just to make themselves, it's like when you run track in high school and you don't run with the first or second wave, you run with like the sixth wave. So it makes you feel good about yourself. But in the 100 meter, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, that's just a sports reference. Anyway, let's go through what she said again. She did the typical trad con thing when it comes to talking about divorce and why the families are breaking up. She's not going to address the real issue. She's just going to say, oh, the men just need to man up, and and it's porn, and before porn, and it's video games, and before video games, and it's golfing. They're always out to golf. Men always golfing, and before, and then in the black community, he's always playing ball, and it's always something. always something that's not focused on her, then it's a problem. And somebody in the comments, when I criticized Lila Rose in one of my older videos, he caught on to it. He said, man, I bet you she be gaslighting her husband like a motherfucker. I'm like, yeah, because like she's the type. Trust me, like I had teachers like this, bro. like that's like I know women like Lila Rose. I've had teachers that like this, dog. They get proven wrong, then they start putting passive aggressive. You know what I'm saying? Trust me. That's why people are like, oh, why did Justin Waller go off on her? No. You missing it. You miss it. She threw slights at Justin, and Justin took exception to it. And I understood why he took exception to it. And if you know about Justin Waller's story, I think actually let me leave that alone. Let me leave that alone. Anyway, let's play this again, and I'm going to dissect this real quick.
There's a statistic I saw recently about divorce, and it was that 56% of divorces list pornography use of one of the partners as one of the top reasons. So like to respond.
So she's going on the Whatever podcast and basically say, you see, it's really the porn that's really breaking up the... Guys, stop. This is where, first of all, right now, pornography, that is just literally, it's part of anybody with internet. It's literally part of the life. Even if you go on Twitter, you'll literally, it's going to pop up. It's going to pop up without your consent. Or if you just go on Instagram, you literally just go on Instagram and it's literally women showing off their bodies half naked without your consent. No, really no different than the porn, in my opinion. So that's not the reason of, and even then when you talk about, oh, it's one of the partners listed pornography, 56% of the time. No. 80% of divorces are initiated by women. 80% of divorces. She did not divorce that man because of porn. That's just one of the complaints that they put under, he was toxic and he was abusive and blah, blah, blah. I will say this, with the amount of the percentage, when I found out about the percentage of sexless marriages, right? When I was started going through that rabbit hole and I really started doing the research on that, really seeing the complaints and stuff like that. Or I'll literally hear stories about I'm talking about women in church. I'm talking about, it would be like the pastor's wife would have a conference and they would be like, you guys know you have to, you can't be holding back on your husbands and stuff. And like literally the church women are literally biting back saying, nah, he don't own my body. I'm talking about church women. When I found out about this, then I'm like, so why are they mad at porn? Why are they mad that their husband is cheating? So now that I think about it, when we're using that logic, when you look at the percentage of sexless marriages, I could actually argue that pornography is actually saving marriages. It's saving him from cheating because I'm literally looking at the percentage. I'm looking at how women talk about how their husband doesn't own their body. And I saw this video on Instagram talking about a love surge. I'm like, oh my God, these dudes is going through it. So I could actually argue pornography might actually be saving marriages. By that logic. Now, divorces, 80%. We already know the reasons behind divorces. Most of it's irreconcilable differences, differences. So that could literally constitute with a lot of things, right? And then on top of that, for most of the studies, it's financial reasons why women divorce. We've had like charts. That's why I don't even want to go through all the pie charts and whatnot. We already showed you. And really, cheating is not even top 3. That's just something no. And cheating is not one of the main reasons. So for her to put pornography in there without really discussing the real issue or why men are resorting to pornography in their marriages is being very irresponsible to leave out why that is, instead of just putting that out there just to shame OnlyFans models and to shame Adam 22, the other residential porn star on the panel. So that was just a shot basically to the porn stars on the panel without really talking about the real issues. Now, so that's already now. And another thing, when we look at the boom of divorces in America, when does this boom happen? Literally, it's like the 1960s or 1970s or 1980s when the implementation of no-fault divorces, that's when, boom, the rises of divorces. Then when you look at the advent of the money that lawyers make from family court, and basically family court is now one of the biggest money makers, and where basically now there are too many financial incentives for women to break up their families, right? Or even if they're not married, there's too much incentive to separate the father from the kids, because a woman can get, in her mind, she thinks she can get more money from him without him being there. So that's also part of that. But let's stick to the marriages, though. Let's stick to the marriages.
There's a lot of harm that porn does to families, marriages, and then the top site that trafficked victims are at, according to the data, is porn.
And now, first of all, she doesn't have no sources for that. And what the real trafficked victims is, first of all, people don't even really want that discussion, because the people, once they actually start bringing up who are the real people behind trafficking, right? When we talk about sex trafficking, and then these hoe ass niggas want to talk about R. Kelly and this. It's interesting though, when the real people start, oh, I know the government, we talk about Epstein's list. Once these people start actually bringing out who is really behind these trafficking things, then people start getting killed. Then people's channels start going demonetized. People's streams get shut down. People get killed. I said that. Oh yeah. Everybody knows what happened to Epstein. Everybody knows. Everybody know he didn't kill himself. But it's just like, that's when you talk about gangster when we talk about the real who's being trafficked, when we talk about, kids in predominantly poor areas and teenagers going missing, we already know what's happening with that. We know what's happening with that. So when people talk about trafficking, human trafficking, you talk about, they've literally proved that when you talk about child protective services is one of the biggest trafficking rings there is. But when we talk about that, then we want to, let's not go there. So but let's blame it on porn. Let's blame it on porn. And by the way, when you see, and yes, in the porn industry, there are traffic victims, but let's be honest, it's mostly volunteers. When we're talking, especially when we're talking about the porn industry, it's mostly volunteers. Mostly. Like it's the number one spot for traffic victims. I disagree with that. First of all, I want to see a source with that, because really, when we talk about the real traffic victims and who has the most of it, it seems like it's always people involved in the entertainment industry that's really involved in like the mass trafficking, whether it be government, whether it be the clergymen, all these powerful people that seems to be connected, but people don't really want to connect the dots because they're afraid they'll be killed. So yeah, let's just blame it on porn. Or let's blame it on video. Anytime something when the school shootings be happening, oh, let's blame it on video games. Or and let's not, but let's not talk about that. Oh, he actually came from a broken home, or he was a pill popper, because then that would actually put the eyes on big pharma and what these people are putting into their bodies. But
those sites, meaning you're going to find a lot of trafficking victims involved in pornography. Just looking at the net large impact on society, you see a lot of that negative impact that pornography has.
So you see like that the demeanor she has, and this thing about porn, and about, man, she can miss me with that. First of all, that yo, man. But the stats don't lie. It's like 80% is made by women. It's not because of porn. It's basically another way to blame men. And by the way, when it comes to porn, guys, people act like women don't watch porn. Like, people act like, dude, in my generation, Gen Z and below, Gen Z women watch as much porn as Gen Z men. These are undisputed facts. Billie Eilish literally told you this. That's not just her. That's a lot of Gen Z. That's a women and men. It's just, but when we bring up porn, it's just another way. It's another way that they can shame men, because they just believe it's just men that's doing this, even though it's real. I'm saying, like, in 2023, men and women watch just as much, or participate in as much debauchery. You know what I'm saying? Let me see these comments. She's neglecting the fact that 75% to 80% of women initiate divorce. And that's why I said 1 in 4 marriages are sexless. 1 in 4. And it's really actually more than that, because when you stretch out the longer marriages, or how about this? When we talk about how many times a month, people will be shocked. So it's like, so the ones that aren't considered sexless and you look at the number of times per month, it will shock you. You'll be like, what? And I think if men knew this coming in, I think most men would not get married. And for some reason, I don't know why women like this will not call out women for weaponizing their peace leave and using it basically as a reward system. I don't know why women like this will not call out women for doing this stuff like that. That's abuse. But they will never classify that as an abuse because, you know, she's a feminist. Let me see. That's why I said, and like I said, like, it'll be like, I know women that, like, a lot of women will say, oh, if he watches porn on me, if he buzzes one off to some porn, they'll consider it cheating. But that same woman will literally hold back sex from their own partner. And it's like, okay, they'll like, women will literally say, oh, sex is not the most important thing in a relationship. But if a man finds sex outside the relationship, it's a problem. Or if he busts ones off to porn, it's a problem. And now I would say, which one is worse? Him finding it outside of the relationship? Especially if you're gonna hold back anyways. If you're the type of woman you holding back, all right, which is worse? Him finding one outside of the relationship, or if he just busts one off the porn and just go to sleep? You know what I'm saying? And that's why I always said, when we talk about the OnlyFans models, and right, who's giving them most of their money? It's not virgin incels. It's not them. They don't have discretionary income to give these hoes these kind of money. Or all you got to do is ask your average sex worker, who are your biggest clients? They'll tell you it's married men. They'll tell you this. So off of that, you can literally take that evidence and be like, okay, so now I get an idea who's paying these OnlyFans models. Virgin incels or virgins or the incels, whatever, they're not spending their money on OnlyFans models. Virgins are spending their money on video V-Bucks for Fortnite and 2K VC. That's what they're spending their money on. Video games. they not spending. They don't have that kind of money. They don't have that kind of money to be giving these grandish these donations to the OnlyFans model. They're they don't have that kind of money to be given to OnlyFans models for the money that they're making. Oh man. That's why I said, technically, if you really look at it, pornography might be saving a lot of marriages. They don't even people can never put two and two together. Okay. He said a lot of porn addicts triggered. No. It's called, it's when we talk about scapegoat, pornography, that's a scapegoat. That's a scapegoat because people are just afraid to call out women for them being abusive with their tactics. Let me see. Adam looks like he's going through an internal battle after hearing these percentages. He said, pretty telling. Dude, people don't understand. Pornography has been around forever. They used to have like literally machines back then, like in the 1910s, 1920s. There would be peep shows. You would still have these dancers. You still have strip clubs back then. You still have prostitution back then. You still had all these things. The pornography now is more accessible to the average person, right? But you had the Playboy magazines back in the day. People act like it's new. That's why I call it an easy scapegoat. It's an easy scapegoat. He said if the ladies would step up, men would not need porn. These are facts. The company that owns Pornhub admitted to profiting off trafficking victims' videos. Well, at least they took some responsibility. You'll never see the government or government officials. You'll never see them take responsibility. You never see CPS take responsibility of the trafficking that goes on. He said men should stop watching it. No. Because what's interesting, she wants the power. Women want the power to where they control when you bust your nut. They want the ball. They want your balls in her hand. And basically only she controls when you get off. And that's just too much power for a hoe to have. That's way too much power for a hoe to have. That's why I would never put myself in a situation like that. Let's look at these comments. If white ain't putting out, porn does. Exactly. So what would be what? I'm like, so you rather him step out then? I said you rather him step out. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say. I just wanted to call her out because Lila Rose, she's full of it. She's full of it. She's full of it. But you know, it's gonna take niggas like me, you know what I'm saying, to call her out. You know, I don't expect, you know, it's kind of hard for, And to be fair, Caucasian TradCon men, it's hard for them to leave the matrix because they created the matrix, so they have to live in it. So they can't really, like a black man can really be outside of the matrix because they don't expect us to really be having, according to the stereotypes, a family and stuff like that. So we can literally be free, right? We can literally live a life of freedom if we so please. But white men, they can't escape the matrix because it was literally created. So it's hard. That's why, I'll be going in on the TradCons, but then you got to remember, like, TradCon Caucasian men, they're not allowed to escape the matrix. They're going to have to find a wife. That's why, they panic a little bit more than ninjas when it comes to this issue. You know what I'm saying? So that's all I had to say. Lila Rose is full of caca. Stop virtue signaling on lost OnlyFans models. They're already lost. You can't do nothing with it. It is what it is, but you're no better, in my opinion.